whatever you want to do. Yeah, I can do that again if you want. Yeah, it's no big deal.
Okay,
Go ahead.
good.
Third time's the charm. Nose hairs.
And on 3,
Yeah, white powder.
looking at each other, neutral face. On 3,
Can't do neutral.
2.
Hey everyone, we are live on location at a CEO Space Forum, and I have the great honor of introducing our next guest. He is an accomplished motivational speaker, an author, a musician, and the list goes on and on. He is our special guest, Mr. Dan Clark. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Your show is so awesome and so revered. It's an honor for me to be here.
Well, thank you, and I'm just gonna have a little fun. Thank you for wiping your nose and doing, getting ready for the shot. It's fantastic.
And, at least your viewers won't go to sleep because they'll see my nose hairs going in and out. So I'll try to be a good boy.
No, you look absolutely handsome.
Thank you.
Now, I've interviewed so many people, and their backgrounds are very successful. But I had such a hard time trying to figure out how to introduce you because you are such an accomplished gentleman. So I would love to get some highlights and I know you're so young. I can't
You're
believe
so
you've
funny.
accomplished so much. Like, give
You
me some
know,
highlights.
So I'm glad you asked me that question because I think that the most inspirational thing in our lives is what is called a bucket list. But too many people just itemize things that they want to do that seem to be impressive, when in reality, life is not about a destination of impressiveness. It's about a journey towards significance. For example, I went over and raced cars in northern Germany at Nürburgring, 14.5-mile course, 156 corners. So you can't memorize the course. You've got to figure out what you're learning about going fast and going fast enough to be competitive, but not going too fast where you crash and burn. And then you apply that to life. When do you slow down? You need to pull over and have a pit stop and fill up your flask, fill up your gas tank. One of the most significant things I've ever had an opportunity to do is go up into space. With the Air Force, I went up to a 15-mile perspective of the Earth for 3 hours and 45 minutes, where I could see the curvature of the Earth. I looked into the blackness of space and I pondered eternity. I pondered our mortality. And you know what occurred to me as I clicked off that hot mic and just soothed myself into the sounds of silence, that everything we can take with us when we die, I had aboard with me on that aircraft. Our character, our education, our convictions, what do we believe? But most importantly, did we leave a legacy? How will I be remembered when I die so that I don't die with my music still in us? So I challenge your viewers to just have a bucket list, an ongoing bucket list, because happiness is not in a destination, it's an ongoing journey of significance, seeking some experience that will help us become better today than we were yesterday. That's why people watch your show. Congratulations, this is an awesome experience.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Now, I want to ask you, because of all these massive accomplishments in your life, I mean, you started at a very young age. You've had to have some sort of thought process through the entire duration of your journey to say, I want to go to the edge of space. I want to be an athlete. I want to be a musician, a gold record musician. I mean, people spend their entire life in one area of what you have done in multiple and very difficult areas. So when you're growing up, are you thinking, I can do all these things. I could be an athlete. I could be a performer. You know, how does that
You know, what's
happen for
interesting
you?
is it's becoming brilliant at the basics. A golf swing is only about 4 things. If you go to a golf professional and he says, I'll enroll you in 6 weeks of classes 1 hour at a time, you're never going to change your golf swing because he's going to keep telling you these are the 19 things you need to change. And then the real golf coaches, they will distill it down to 4 things. If somebody's calling you from the left side of your body, you turn, or the right side, you turn. And you watch what happens to your body. A golf swing, you turn to the right, you balance and bat speed, you turn to the left, and you follow through high. 4 things. So when you itemize the 4 things that make you significant, you can be a musician, you can be a best-selling author, you can go to the edge of space, you can be a great dad, a great husband, a great wife, a great mother. You can be a great at anything because the 4 things that allow us to become all that we were born to be apply to everything and every aspect of our lives.
So tell me about this book that you've written.
It's called The Art of Significance. It's my 21st book. I'm a New York Times best-selling author, pretty proud of that. But my whole life I've been intrigued by how successful people get what they want, and then at the end of the day, they don't like what they got. I played football with a guy who's drafted into the National Football League in the 2nd round. After 4 years in the league as a superstar, he walks out of practice, quits, never to play again. Why? He liked being a football player, but he hated playing football. He got what he wanted, but he hated what he got. And as I travel the world, too many people hate their jobs. They only look forward to Friday instead of Monday. They think they're paid by the hour when in reality we're paid for the value we bring to that hour. Too many people live their lives hoping to be happy, but because they only hope, they never really are. It's like I can't wait to go to the senior prom. I'm saving myself for the senior prom, and they've never stopped long enough to learn how to dance. So this book really does what I wanted it to do. It's a 25-year project where I've itemized the 12 principles of success that allow us to get what we want. And then out of my irreverent maverick curiosity, I killed some sacred cows, I challenged the status quo, and I replaced those 12 principles that are debatable with what I call the 12 highest universal laws of life-changing leadership. 50% of the examples given as great companies in Jim Collins' Good to Great book were obsolete within 10 years after publication, which proves true that great is not good enough and best is only relevant depending on what we compare it against.
Yeah.
Last week I'm in St. Louis, pretty good speech. People were doing the wave and name of their future children after me. I was going well. About 5 people came backstage. Clark, man, you were the best speaker we've ever heard. And I'm like, well, what if he sucked? I don't want you to compare me against the other speakers. I want to be the best that I can be. Best is only relevant depending on what you compare it against. So you think about it. Are you tall? Are you short? Are you wide? Are you thin? Are you smart? Are you slow? Are you fast? Are you quick? Compared to what says who?
Exactly.
You got to be the best you can be. My dad always said you're going to make a lousy somebody else. And so what we got to do in this life of ours, as short as it may be, is to stop competing against others, because when you compete against others, no one wants to help you. Go to a marathon. The kid with cerebral palsy who shows up at the starting line with a dad or a mom who wants to push him, 200 people come out of the stands. They want to do anything they can possibly do to help him. You compete against others, you're on your own. You compete against yourself, and everybody wants to help you. So here at CEO Space, we learn about collaborative capitalism, cooperative capitalism, which means when the water in the lake goes up, all the boats rise with it. And when you leave me, Maria, I want you to say, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. Oh, and then by the way, what do you do? So my book gets us to focus in on things that will outlast our lifetime so we can live a life of significance. And people actually leave us saying, I'm better today than I was yesterday, simply because I've walked in your shoes, I've been in your space, and together we've risen.
So are you teaching people how to leave their legacy as well?
Absolutely.
In
Leave their
journey?
legacy.
So how do you do that internal gauge where, in the beginning when I was just starting 7 years ago and interviewing people, I thought I had to be like a Barbara Walters or Oprah. They were my idol. And I found that I didn't have my own personality, and there was no connection with the guests and the people I was interviewing. And when my husband Ray said, you are who you are, and that's wonderful. Just be that person. And it was very difficult because you become vulnerable to everyone who's watching, because the judgment and all the external feedback that you're receiving.
Absolutely.
So how do you do this internal gauge where you know that every moment that you are living, it's all about your purpose and you contributing?
It's a question. Or it's a statement too, but if the things you think about and believe in are different than the things you do, you'll never be happy. So the reason why my football buddy loved being a football player but hated playing football was because he loved the celebrity perks, the fame, the fortune that allowed him to live an existence of success, but because it was misaligned with his inner voice and his purpose, he could never enjoy a life of significance. I played football for 13 years. I was paralyzed for 14 months. 16 doctors told me I would never get better. Wow. And as I started to get better, I was asked to speak. Now that I've recovered, people ask me the oddest question, hey Clark, what took you so long? And what they're really saying is, if you were going to get better, why did you wait? The more profound answer to that question is the reason why I stayed paralyzed for 14 months, 16 doctors told me I'd never get any better, was because I was asking the wrong questions. I was asking the doctors how to get better when I should have been asking myself why. Once we answer why, figuring out the how to is pretty simple. And when your why is big enough, the how seems insignificant because I can do this to become significance. So my compliment to you is, instead of competing against the Barbara Walters and all the other journalists, you're equally as beautiful or more so. You're eloquent, you're elegant, sophisticated, all the polished professional accolades I could throw on you. But my ultimate compliment would be that you've apparently focused in on why you want this show, why you want to be a journalist, why you want to interview interesting folks to focus in on the real messages of life that will transform us from successful to significance. And because you aligned who you are as a human being and this magnificent woman with your purpose. Why are you going to use your talents and your beauty and your articulation and your technical skills and your education? Why? And it was in perfect alignment with the messages of this positive show. Success is more than yours. You can actually become as successful as those other journalists and as successful as those other shows, but you've been willing to focus in on why first, which means now your show becomes significant. And significance is why we continually come back. It's why you'll have a following, because you're in the process of leaving a legacy by focusing in on right now, and right now is about aligning who we are with what we do.
And what sort of legacy do you want to leave?
I want people to leave saying I'm exactly the same off stage as I was on stage, that no matter what their past has been, they have a spotless future. That pain is a signal to grow, not to suffer. Once we learn the lesson the pain teaches us, the pain goes away. Crisis, it doesn't define who we are. Crisis does not make or break the man or woman, it just reveals the true character within. So through my experience, I learned that no one can become as good as we can possibly come unless we're tested, unless we're stretched, which allows me to publicly announce to every audience of any size that my accident was clearly one of the best things that ever happened to me. Don't misunderstand. My accident wasn't one of the best things that happened to me, but who I became as a man and what I learned about life and the most important things about becoming significance is clearly one of the best things that ever happened to me. So I don't wish any of your viewers to go get hit by a bus and then figure out what you learned from that. Well, what I actually challenge you to realize is that in life there's no mistakes, only lessons. And so regardless of what happens to us, it's never about what happens to us, it's about what we do with what happens to us that defines who we are. Which means that what we've been in the past does not make us who we are today, no matter what you hear or who tells you that. What we hope to become in the future makes us who we are today. And if we're in a tough situation where maybe our kids are falling off the deep end or they're going down the wrong path, discipline is to teach, not to punish. You can't increase a person's performance by making him feel worse. Humiliation immobilizes our behavior. What we've got to do is focus in on the positive things that all of us have, and then accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and somehow inspire one another to let go and, with all due respect, tie into the universe, tie into whom I worship, God, and figure out how to do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. And when we do that, suddenly we understand the law of attraction, the law of intention, the law of vibration, frequency, all the things that we hear about in all of our seminars, because we now understand it in terms of how we see the world, and that's how we create significance.
Well, thank you for helping me feel significant today and sharing your words of wisdom. I was actually going to ask you your closing words of wisdom, but you just did it so well.
Thanks.
And thank you for all that you do and who you are and the message that you are teaching to everyone.
Thanks.
Now, if people want to get more information about you, whether it's your book or your speaking, because I watched you and you are phenomenal, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks.
Absolutely phenomenal, hilarious, and just an all-around connected and wonderful person.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm glad Maria didn't introduce me as a motivational speaker. They're shallow. They say things like we become what we think about, and we know that's not true. If that was true, I would have been a woman by the time I was 12 years old. I'm an inspirational speaker, transformational leadership guru, if I can consider myself that. My new book, The Art of Significance, Achieving a Level Beyond Success, it's available in Barnes & Nobles. It's available on Amazon.com. You can get a hold of me at my website if you want to curiously cruise around, see some video clips, danclarkspeak.com, artofsignificance.com, and my 800 number is 800-676-1121. I love to speak. That's what I do really is my profession. I'm a professional speaker, and I'd love to speak for all the conventions that come here to Las Vegas and anywhere else in the world that you think a guy like me could add some value.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you so much
Appreciate
again.
you. Thank you.